Hello friends, as all of us are aware that how cinema plays an important role in the lives of so many of us, and how films they are being watched by so many people, and the filmmakers they are also in a way engaged in making new kinds of stories in a different kind of a manner so that their films they become popular. And in this series, today we'll talk about a multidimensional film personality, Vijay Krishna Acharya, who is popularly known as Victor. And Vijay Krishna Acharya, he has not only made films in the context of being a director, but he has been a script writer. He has been also involved in writing the dialogues as well, and he is multi-talented. And in this series, we will also talk about the films of Vijay Krishna Acharya, and for the kind of reference we can see the films as well as Wikipedia.com. Then Vijay Krishna Acharya interview with Dr. Manoj Sharma, that is myself, and one article in Tribune. So these are some of the references which have been used to talk about Vijay Krishna Acharya and his contribution in the context that the way he not only wrote the first two films which were referred to as the Dhoom series, but he also directed the Dhoom 3, and he also directed Thugs of Hindustan, and how he was also connected with the television industry as well. So in our discussion, we'll try to highlight the important concerns of Vijay Krishna Acharya as a filmmaker, his ideas which are reflected in the films which have been made by him. And as I told you that he was engaged in making Dhoom series, and how Dhoom series, when we talk about Dhoom series, we find that the established film actors who always played the roles of the protagonist, the way they have been presented as anti-hero or villains in these films, and how they also have been accepted by the film audience, is also some sort of a consolation for the filmmaker who took this kind of a risk where he placed the male protagonist or heroes in the shades of anti-hero. And when we talk about Vijay Krishna Acharya, we talk about his initial TV work. He also was a script writer and dialogue writer. He was also a lyricist, and that was in his TV stint was began in 1990s, and thereafter he came to the film industry, and he made certain films as well. Tashan, which was made in 2008, this film was the directorial debut of Vijay Krishna Acharya, and this film also had Akshay Kumar, Saif Ali Khan and Kareena Kapoor in the lead roles, with Anil Kapoor as the antagonist. So we find that this particular film, which was dealing with the issue of revenge as well, that how Anil Kapoor was responsible for Kareena Kapoor's father's death, and how she wanted to take some kind of a revenge on this particular person. And this particular film, and apart from that, I told you even about the Dhoom series, which became quite popular. And in the context of Tashan, we find that how finally Anil Kapoor is being killed in the end by Kareena Kapoor, and how both Akshay Kumar and Saif Ali Khan, they are able to provide that kind of a support to the female protagonist. So this story, which was also some sort of a revenge film, was also the story of greed as well, that how so many people they become greedy for the kind of money which is there. So such kind of ideas which are very relevant to the society, that society has also become a lot of greedy in that sense, and it also in a way trying to highlight that society has to change for certain values which are there in the society. And the kind of characters, those who played important roles in this film, where Taran Adarsh says that Tashan belongs to Akshay Kumar's completely, and We also find that other critics like Sanjay Ram, they say that film, though with many slips, is thoroughly engaging and entertaining, and the vibrancy and the spunk keeps it alive and loaded. So we find that Tashan has a lot of potential, but at the same time, some of the reasons which are not in the control of the filmmakers, which are in a way circumstantial in nature, because of which the film could not become a great hit, because we find that the film opened to a 75 to 80% response, and but was well short of the expected bumper opening due to the multiplex revenue sharing problem which was there at that point of time, which did not allow the film to be released in major multiplexes across India. And so this was some sort of problem in the context of the management of the release of the film. And we find that because of this, film lost a major chunk of its revenue which it could have been able to generate. And so we find that thereafter how Vijay Krishna Acharya, or Victor, he also directed a popular blockbuster with the title of Dhoom 3, and which was a tale of revenge, and how Amir Khan seeks revenge from a bank which forced his father to commit suicide, who ran a circus. So Amir Khan robs the various branches of bank in USA as some sort of a revenge for what the bank did to his father. And we find that the other characters, those who played important roles like Abhishek Bachchan and Uday Chopra as the police officers, how they go to USA to assist in the case, and how Katrina Kaif, who was shown to be an acrobat, and how she joins the circus, which was again started by Amir Khan. And in this film we also find that Amir Khan played a double role, and in the kind of tricks which were being shown in the film, where he will disappear at one place and will be showing up in another place. So we find that such kind of tricks, they became possible because of his twin brother, and both of them they were able to, in a way, pull off this kind of a trick, and were able to enthrall the audience. We also find that this film was a huge success in that sense, and later in the film it is also being shown that how Amir Khan, who had some sort of a autistic twin, so initially it was not known, and later it was being shown to the audience that how he was able to pull off these kinds of robberies and tricks. And then there is some sort of an accidental fight, and how one of them sustains wounds from the gunshot of Abhishek Bachchan. And in the climax scene we find that how the twin, he grabs a hand of the other twin, or Amir, who was playing this character, and he did not want that Amir should go from that place, and he does not want to live at that place, because he says to twin that now twin can live freely with the female protagonist, the role played by Katrina Kaif. And the twin is also very close to Amir, and he does not want that both of them, as they were born together, they should also die together. This is the kind of idea which he has in his mind. So the production quality of this film was excellent, and the way the role played by the male as well as the female protagonist in the film, it was appreciated by the audience. The cinematography of the film was also praised, and as I told you, the kind of dialogues which were written by Vijay Krishna Acharya, they were also appreciated by the audience. And we find that the way film ended, where we find that two of them, they fall into abysses, and but both of them, they were smiling at each other. And we also find that finally Katrina is being shown who as a person who has taken over the great Indian circus, which belonged to his father, and finally Amir. And then she was performing in this circus as well. So we find that the critics, they some of them, they have in a way praised the film. The others, those who have criticized the film. But on the whole, we find that this film was able to generate a lot of revenue, and it was some sort considered to be one solid entertainer, which was loaded with the attitude and the star power that will leave the fans of series salivating for more. So this was the view which was expressed by Taran Adarsh. And one more thing is that there is some kind of a talk within the film industry that Dhoom 4 will also be made, and some kind of a script work which is also going on Dhoom 4. So this series, all the three films, they have been quite successful, and they have been quite popular, and they have been able to connect with the audience. And the kind of creative input which has been given by Vijay Krishna Acharya Victor in all these three films has also been phenomenal in nature. And we find that some of the film critics like Bill Stamets of Chicago Sun-Times, they have in a way communicated that Dhoom 3's crowd-pleasing populist fare that entertains as a spectacle of chases, bank capers, magic acts, and song and dance numbers. And some of the critics, they have in a way noted that Dhoom 3 has several similarities with Christopher Nolan's films like Prestige and Dark Knight. So the way this film was being compared with Christopher Nolan's films, and some kind of similarities with them. So we can also say that how filmmakers, when they see each other's films, they in a way get influenced with some kind of ideas, the way the other filmmaker presents his own creative work. And the way this film was screened during the 2014 International Film Festival of India in celebrating dance in Indian cinema section. And film has also garnered inaugural Telstra People's Choice Award as 2014 Indian Film Festival of Melbourne. So this film was quite popular, as was being directed by Victor or Vijay Krishna Acharya. And we also find that there was another film called Thugs of Hindustan, which was written as well as directed by him. And this film was not all that successful in that sense, that it was not able to generate a lot of money for the filmmaker. But if you see the film, then one would in a way connect with the film, and film will appeal to him in that sense, to him or her in that sense, that the story which is being narrated, the audience will able to emotionally in a way attach with this particular film. And it talks about a period where East India Company is ruling India in that sense. And we also find that how a small thug from Awadh, which was the kind of role which was played by Amir Khan, and who's being sent by the East India Company's officials to infiltrate and counter a band of thugs. So Amir Khan was also in a way playing the role of a person who was trying to help the East India Company. And we also find that the film also shows that how East India Company was an usurper of India. And in 1795, when the Indian subcontinent was known as Hindustan or Hindustan, a king was killed by the Clive of the East India Company. And so these kind of presentations in a way also communicate that how the British or the East India Company, they were committing a lot of atrocities on the people, and they were annexing the lands of the people. And in this film, the question of legitimacy and illegitimacy also being talked about, because when the king is being killed, his young daughter and is being raised by one of his confident generals, and who the role being played by Amitabh Bachchan, and how Amitabh is able to defeat the retreating enemy soldiers, and he raises this girl, the role played by Sana Sheikh, as his daughter, and the way she is being trained in the arts of the warfare. And the role which was being played by Amir was of a Firangi Mullah, who is a small time thug, who is ready to fool people for money. And the kind of name which also suggests that name Firangi was used for the British or for the foreigners. So he is using this kind of a word. He in a way was acting or playing the role of a routine informer for the East India Company, and at the same time he also wants to be a European himself, and that is why this moniker Firangi is being attached to him, and he also dresses up as one in many circumstances as well. So we find that how in this particular film, Amitabh Bachchan is also leading a band of the Indian bandits, those who are known as thugs, and who is specialized in the sea-based warfare, and they expose a serious challenge to Lord Clive in expanding the East India Company, which had by then seized control of the various parts of India. And Lord Clive, he assigns his right hand to counter the rising threat which was posed by thugs. So we find that this kind of a conflict, where the question of legitimacy of the people, those who were the natives, and how the rights of the natives, they were being trampled by the foreigners or the Firangis, and a lot of drain of wealth, a lot of money which was being taken away by the British from India to Britain. So all this was also happening, and how India was being turned into some sort of a colony, and the masses which were there in India, the way they were being oppressed or ill-treated by the British, that is also being shown. And we find that how Amir is tasked by the East India Company to meet this challenge, and the challenge of which was posed by Amitabh Bachchan, and how Amir, with the help of his friend, he manages to track Amitabh. And we also find that how Amir mistakenly saves Sana Sheikh's life by taking a bullet for her, and Amitabh Bachchan takes him to their secret location for treatment. So some kind of affinity is being shown between both of them, and Amitabh Bachchan also in a way accepts and begins to show confidence in him. And we also find that when Amitabh Bachchan and his men, they make a stop to pick up muskets from a local ruler who was supporting their cause, Amir Khan betrays them and lets East India Company know about their location. So Amitabh Bachchan is being trapped because of this, and he also in a way lets Amir Khan know that he knows that he has betrayed him, but he still believes that Amir Khan has something good in him. And we find that there is some kind of a duel as well, where Amir Khan in a way saves Amitabh Bachchan. So this film is being set, as I told you, in the colonial period, and we also find that the idea of nationalism, the idea of saving one's own land, they were also being shown in the film. And the question of legitimacy, where the legitimate heir played by Sana Sheikh, who was being denied her own kingdom, and how the foreigners, they have killed her father and the king, who was the legitimate ruler of this particular place. So these kinds of things, they were being talked about in the framework of the ideas of nationalism, in the framework of the ideas of patriotism, and how finally we find that Amir Khan, he helps Amitabh Bachchan and Sana Sheikh. And we also find in this film that how Clive, who was a representative of the East India Company, he reveals that though it was being communicated that Amitabh Bachchan had died, but he was still alive and he was to be executed. But finally we find that how Amir Khan, he betrays all the thugs to Clive, but it was actually a plan to release all the prisoner thugs, including Amitabh Bachchan, who survived but was captured by the East India Company soldiers. And We find in the final encounter with the East India Company, Sana Sheikh fights with the East India Company soldiers, while Amir Khan stops Clive from boarding his ship. And finally, we see that how Sana Sheikh kills Clive, and justice is being served to him. So these kinds of portrayals, they not only communicate about our history, our past in the context of colonialism, but at the same time they also talk about the ideas of patriotism and nationalism. They also talk about the ideas of legitimacy and illegitimacy. And finally we find that how Amir Khan is being shown that he has gone away from there, and now he has boarded a ship to London. With regard to the kind of star cast, Victor or Vijay Krishna Acharya said in one of the interviews that he wanted to work with Amitabh Bachchan, and his name was Vijay in many of the films. So Vijay Krishna Acharya's name is also Vijay. So he in a way communicates that how he was a big fan of Mr. Bachchan. We also see that the kind of films which were also being written by him, like Dhoom series, they became some sort of cult over a period of time, and they communicate how the cops and the robbers, they are being positioned against each other. And the Zee Cine Award was given to Victor for the best dialogues for this particular film called Dhoom. So we find that these kinds of awards which are being given, they are the kind of recognition which a filmmaker likes. And we also find that he was able to write for other films as well, as you can see on the screen, that for these films, Dhoom 2, Pyar Ke Side Effects, Ravan, the kind of dialogues which were written by Victor for these films. So any thinking filmmaker who himself is a writer will be able to in a way portray the kind of sensibilities which he has in terms of his writing. And recently there was some news that there's a project in which Sam Manakshaw biopic will be made, where an attempt to show the life of a soldier and a tactician will be made by Vijay Krishna Acharya, and his commitment to the nation, his commitment to the country, and his heroics in the field, and his contribution in the wars. All of that will be in a way shown in this particular film, in which Vicky Kaushal is going to play the lead role. Apart from that, he also was connected with television. We find that he was connected to certain series like Just Mohabbat, which was in a way telecast from 1996 to 2000. And apart from that, he was also connected with some other series like Shakalaka Boom Boom, and some kind of merchandise which was based on this series was also launched in the market as well, and how it was very, very popular with the children. So we find that a filmmaker in the later times was also concerned with the children as well, that he wanted to show these kinds of stories where children will be able to connect with them. And it was written as well as directed by Vijay Krishna Acharya. Then Life Nahi Hai Laddu, it was another series which was directed as well as written by Vijay Krishna Acharya. As you can see on the screen as well, the story in a way related to a nerdy guy, and how who did not have that kind of a confidence in him. And the Hindu-Christian relations, they were also being shown in a humorous twist in this serial. Then we also find that apart from this, he was also connected with Jassi Jassi Koi Nahi, which was a very popular show, which was based largely on a Spanish show, I Am Betty, the Ugly One. And how this particular show, which became very, very popular, and Vijay Krishna Acharya, Victor, who in a way was concerned in terms of writing this show, and how it was also based on this particular show, which was a Spanish show, as I told you. And the story was also very connected with the middle class, which was showing the aspirations of a middle class, and how a particular girl from a middle class who is not very attractive, and how she is able to in a way achieve her own objectives with her own grit and hard work. So, and the way she is able to seek the kind of revenge from the people, those who were troubling her all the time in the serial. He was also connected with a TV series called Sonpari, and it was also a fantasy adventure show. And in this, we find that how a lady with superpowers that were meant to save world from the evil, and it was shown on the Indian TV for the first time, that how it was happening in the context of a woman, and at the same time how to fulfill the expectations of the makers. This show was also very, very successful as well, and how children especially they got connected to this particular show, which went for 2 seasons. We also find that he also played an important role in terms of unearthing the talent in the country, and his main concern as India's best cine stars ki khoj on television, where he acted as the judge. And so that way he was connected with television, where he could find people, those who can work in the field of acting. So when you talk about the kind of concern which is there in a filmmaker, then Victor says that he always looked for this kind of an ability, where a person is able to grab one's attention. And it does not mean that the person has to look good, or that one has to dance very well, but the acting basically will take one person ahead in this particular sector. So in a way, he was in a way connected with identifying, grooming and honing the acting talent, and that is how he was connected with this show. So in the discussion, we could talk about the kind of variety of roles which have been played by Victor as a creative person, the way he was connected with the Yash Raj films, and he wrote the Dhoom series as well as directed films, and he has donned various hats. So to conclude, I would like to just say that he has been very phenomenal in terms of a thinking filmmaker who has been constantly evolving over a period of time, and we expect that his upcoming films will also in a way reflect his quest or his thirst for better films which will be made by him. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot.